You know what I'm most upset about?
What?
It wasn't true to the legacy. Thomas Wayne didn't say Martha once.
God damn it. I'll see you all in the hate comments.
Well, this movie was made by clowns.
This movie fucking sucks.
Oh boy.
Oh my god, this pretentious load of trash.
Okay.
Where do we fucking start?
Okay, so, I mean, I think there's plenty of stuff out there about what people think of the movie or not. There are plenty of really good reviews. There are plenty of really bad reviews. And there are plenty of hot takes. But I believe I have a take that I have not heard yet. And I kind of just want to skip over talking about the movie sequentially like we normally do and just get right to the fucking conversation about it.
Sure, let's do it.
Because I don't think this should even
fucking care.
Yeah, fuck the review because there's already so much out there.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about this shit.
Yeah.
Okay, and all the spoilers.
Yeah.
Fuck it, all the spoilers.
And before we get started, I want to make it clear, because I know I've talked a fair amount of shit about this movie on Twitter beforehand. I give this movie every goddamn chance. I give it every goddamn chance, and the reason I do not like it is actually none of the reasons I put it on the Twitter, although that definitely is a factor.
All right, sounds like we both have plenty to say.
All right, so go for it. You go first.
Okay, so I think it's important to approach this from a couple of angles as we have this conversation. Honestly, I don't really care about this in the framework of the Batman legacy or, you know, the Batman comics. This is its own thing. It's a standalone. It's a completely new concept, different entirely.
Yeah.
And I don't think that it's a travesty to have a Joker origin story because it's been done a few times. It has potential for some interesting stuff.
No, that's what I said when the movie was first announced too. It's like, you know, if you could do any like standalone movie of a Batman villain, although I don't really think it's a good idea, it's like the Joker would be the one to do it because he's the most malleable character.
I mean, they made a Catwoman movie.
Kind of. We don't talk about the Catwoman movie.
I do want to at some point because it's hilarious.
Oh, I did a review on it like ages ago.
We should revisit it. It's a headache to watch.
Oh god.
But there's the scope of what the intent of the movie was, and there's the scope of what people are worried about regarding it, and then there's the scope of the potential dangerous effect that it may have. And honestly, I think a lot of people are really misled on what they're concerned about with this movie.
Okay.
I think that there are some, you know, it definitely has problematic elements. The things that people are saying about how it uses mental illness to justify what he does, it makes it pretty clear that he is severely damaged. He's going through a lot of shit. He's not getting the care he needs. And he just, basically through the course of this movie, he loses every single, every little bit of support that he has that's keeping him going, he loses through this movie. He loses fucking everything. And on top of that, he is mentally unstable. He has this condition with the laugh. And one thing I do want to say about the movie and its quality is Joaquin Phoenix is, of course, fucking amazing.
Okay, 3 things I would give this movie. We both agree on this.
Yes, the soundtrack.
The soundtrack is great.
Very good. Very nice.
Cinematography is great.
Shockingly good cinematography at plenty of points.
I would say the set design is great.
Yes, that I also was surprised at. And Joaquin fucking Phoenix.
And Joaquin Phoenix. He's Joaquin Phoenix. You know?
He completely immerses himself in the role. He is 100% just
He's here
this
for
character.
it. Yeah.
I love the fact that he doesn't have a lot of coping mechanisms. So there are stressful moments when he goes into this like slow motion dancing stuff that I guess comes from he was watching a Fred Astaire movie.
Yeah,
But
whatever.
like old
the
school,
symbolism.
he likes
dance.
dancing.
Yeah.
He likes dancing, and it's kind of this thing that he sinks into. Like the sound fades away and the music comes in, and I kind of liked that aspect. I liked the way that it shows him. I like what he developed for the character. The laugh being an involuntary thing, I thought was actually a pretty cool callback to the original concept of the man who laughs.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's not something where he actually thinks things are funny. It's not meant to be a sinister thing. It's a thing that he has to endure, and you can he can't breathe sometimes because of it. You hear him choking on it and stuff. Like it's really good.
I'll give you this
That's
as far
really
as
good.
and I agree on that. To be fair, I think as far as character goes itself, the only reason it works in any regard whatsoever is because of Phoenix.
Yeah, I mentioned this going in.
Yeah.
Without Joaquin Phoenix, this movie is easily way worse. It falls apart.
Because like when you actually look at the character itself, there's fucking nothing there.
Yeah, there's barely anything.
There's nothing there. There's nothing like
it is threadbare.
I'm convinced
The writing's pretty bad.
I'm convinced that anyone that like says like, oh my god, this movie's a masterpiece, like you got fucking tricked by good acting. Like you got tricked to like a shallow as fuck script where there is nothing. It has no idea what it wants to say, but it acts profound at every goddamn second. This movie takes itself so goddamn seriously to the point of parody.
I liked that about it. I felt like if you're going to do this way,
if you're gonna do it that way,
seriously.
I'm not saying it shouldn't take itself seriously, but if you're gonna take itself seriously, actually have something to say.
That's different. That's different.
Or at least have some kind of justification because it bounces all over the place.
No, I get that, but here's the thing. I like everything about this movie except for the fucking plot and the writing.
Which is kind of a big part of it.
I know, that's what fucking pisses me off. Because everything about this movie is like fucking...
It's well made.
It's really well made. It nails the tone. The tone is great. The atmosphere, the feeling you get watching certain scenes, the mix of empathy and deep discomfort you get watching Joaquin Phoenix. Okay. Because he is, the whole idea that, you're meant to be, sympathetic to him, the thing that people find troubling about that, the fact that he turns into a killer, you're meant to empathize with it. It's kind of an understandable path given the circumstances, even though the plot is kind of shoddy. And it makes it very clear from the start. It from the way the music is used to the way that it's shot to the way that he looks in those scenes, like the one where he's following the mom around. You're not meant to actually be like, this is fine because he's mentally ill. Like you're watching it and you're like, oh, this man needs help. He's doing bad things.
And like, okay, to clarify my earlier point, like I have no problem with it having a serious tone. I have no problem with it having. The tone itself, the fact that it has a dark tone isn't the part that bothers me.
Yeah.
You can have that in a film and be fine. Like, again, I would say The Dark Knight's probably the best example of this as far as comic movies go.
Of course.
And like the way you can do that right. My problem is when you have the good set design, you have the music, you have the tone, you have everything else
all the
worked
elements.
out. But when your writing is so piss poor and it thinks it's smarter than it actually is, it makes the tone moot. It negates everything else about it.
The movie feels magnificent. It feels amazing. But it's not. It's a shell. It's a very, very beautifully crafted shell around a really fucking hollow, juvenile, teen rage bullshit plot. And I do...
A movie that also constantly contradicts itself.
Here's the thing. I don't think it does. I think what people are worried about... Okay.
Well, I'm not saying contradict itself in terms of the incel thing. I'm not talking about in that regard.
Okay.
I'm talking about like its actual quote unquote social commentary in terms of the whole thing is supposed to be like, this movie's supposed to be like how society is bad, or like society blah 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 blah. Here's the thing about that though. It has like it. First off, beats you over the head. I'm still pressing my thoughts, so I ramble. That's why. So they bash you over the head with like the one percenters or Antifa metaphors and all these things that are supposed to call back to modern, like current things going on.
Yeah.
But the problem is it never really paints either side any better than the other.
No, but that's the thing. That's the thing.
But for saying
Here's,
are they
let me
nuanced?
give you my take. Let me
Okay.
give you my take.
Okay.
Because it negates what you're saying.
Okay.
This is not a movie about incels. This is a movie about what right-wing anti-PC culture people think left-wingers are.
Ooh, okay, I'm intrigued. Go on.
This movie, first off, look at all the fucking elements. You have a dude who's got a piss poor job. He's got no skills. He's mentally ill. He relies on welfare and the public system to support him. His mom just wants to get a handout from the rich guy who runs the city because they were nice to him at one point. When the government programs for welfare get cut out, he's the victim, so he doesn't get his medication anymore. What was it? When he finds his power, like he tries to be nice. He forgives the kids who beat him up. He's like, they were just kids. I should have left it alone. Basically, he's a fucking beta. And when the thing is happening on the fucking on the subway, when the fucking Chads come in and start harassing the girl, and he kind of looks over, but he doesn't do anything, but he fucks up their attempt with him, and fucking pussy ass lefty gets a gun and realizes how empowering it is to kill fucking people who are pissing him off, right? So then he realizes the power of having a gun and decides that that's how he's gonna take out his anger on people. That's how he's gonna fucking that's how he's going to get his confidence and handle things. And that is admittedly what some left-wing people think that right-wing people are about their guns, but I know several gun owners, and their approach towards their guns is not, it's not the whole thing of like, this is what makes me powerful. But if you're talking about people who are weak taking their guns and just killing a bunch of people to empower themselves, that's what that is. Now, when you're also talking, when you get further into the movie, and you're talking about when you're talking about the movement starting, the whole movement is all about kill the rich. The whole movement is about anti-society. What are the clowns if not Antifa? The one thing that I would say is kind of flipped is when he goes after the late night host, because a lot of right-wing people don't like how late night hosts are, make fun of the president and everything. But you could also see it as, being flipped on, like, how does that make you feel? These guys just piss people off. And so a big right-wing talking point is the problem is not the guns, the problem is the mental health issues in the country. So you have that whole thing happen where he fucking kills the dude, and then it has a fucking pan out thing like it thinks it's fucking network. And
damn, let's crack on that.
And it gets to the point where he's seeing the city being destroyed. There are riots happening. Thomas Wayne gets killed because he was inspired by a fucking Antifa clown. He inspired an Antifa clown who wants to kill a rich person who just murders the Wayne parents. And he's celebrated for his bullshit, media loving shit. Now, there are several things that could be used as saying like, oh, this is what left-wing people are scared of, like someone committing murder and getting a bunch of media attention and being celebrated, like at the end when the clowns are like, yeah, he killed the talk show host,
sure,
whatever. But I really do think that this movie is how Todd Phillips views the left.
Honestly, based on every interview he's done leading up to this, that is 100% supported. Especially when you consider, like, it's the far left and woke culture that's holding everything back.
But do you see what I fucking mean?
No, I completely see it, and that's actually a brilliant take. I'm going to give you all the props in the world for that.
All right, so that's my thoughts on this.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think, do you think that was intentional, or do you think that was just largely projection?
I think it's intentional, because the way that things are portrayed in this movie, the way that it's the thing that makes it consistent.
The only thing that makes it consistent.
And you got to realize that a lot of the people really criticizing this movie are the people who are on the left and worried about the violence it will incite on the other side, instead of, trying to think about who made this? What is their perspective? What is the character they're portraying? What are the issues that they are tackling in this movie? And the ones that are most consistent through the whole fucking thing. Because if you want to talk about incel shit, you want to talk about, because I've heard the takes about, the neighbor being the thing that sets him off, when it's very clear that he hallucinates that whole thing.
Yeah.
It's not her fault. That's not incel shit. That's just a dude imagining his girlfriend. When you talk about...
a lot of the problems in the movie does seem to come from... another theme I noticed is majority of the women, the problems with the character, or the problems he particularly has to do directly with women. With the exception of the late night host, but everyone else is like a direct result, either the mom or the fantasy girlfriend or the therapist.
Sort of. But then...
I'm saying you can make that argument. I'm not saying it's necessarily
true. You could make that argument. It's also... There's also like... In both the therapists are black women, and so is the neighbor, which is interesting.
Yeah, that was a consistent thing that I did find a little disturbing.
Did see an interest. It was weird because
and also the woman on the bus.
The one on the bus was white.
No, the other woman on the bus.
Oh yeah, the one kind of being mean to him.
The
about
one
the
being
kid.
mean to him about the kid. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. That is kind of weird. But there's. Always. But there's like this weird thing where there is a consistent mix of black and white people throughout the movie.
Mm-hmm. But it is a little peculiar. And again, it
does feel a little weird.
Yeah, like it is an odd coincidence that happens 4 times.
The rude lady on the bus, yes. The therapist, I don't see that as much of a problem because that's stupid. The therapist is kind of a weird thing because she's not so much of an issue as the fact that he loses her. She's not a great therapist. She hates her fucking job. She's a public servant, but that's really pissing me off. What car is that? That's all right, whatever. But she's a public servant, and when they cut the welfare programs and he loses his access to his medication and his do you want to stop that until it stops? Yeah. Okay, so we were talking about the people of color issue.
Right. Yeah.
Very strange how it consistent. Like there are black people in this movie, and they seem to be in roles that fail him or upset him in some way. The lady on the bus is one.
Are there any that aren't?
I mean, honestly, I don't think the psychologist was that bad. I think she was just similarly bored. There's his black coworker who doesn't seem to be any worse than the rest of his coworkers.
That's true. Okay, yeah, there's one.
And the therapist, when they part ways, she very specifically tells him that the system doesn't give a fuck about him, and it doesn't give a fuck about her either. Mm-hmm. So, in a sense, she kind of equates the fact that, we're both pretty much in the same situation. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's a commentary on race politics and the fact that, the system wants us divided against each other instead of fighting the system itself and all that shit.
System,
society. Which is again another kind of talking point of that kind of mindset. I just really find it interesting how a lot of people are having issues where it's very mixed with its messaging when they're kind of just, as far as I can see, viewing it from their own perspective instead of thinking how a douche bro like Todd Phillips would view this character and where it comes from.
So you're saying that from Todd Phillips' perspective, that what the point is makes perfect sense, but for everyone else, it just looks like gibberish.
Well, the fact that another thing, like the whole incel side of things, the whole James Holmes thing. He said he was the Joker, but at the same time, I really don't think he was actually inspired by the Joker in The Dark Knight to do what he did. I think that he was already a very, very sick person.
Oh, we're talking about the Dark Knight shooting?
Yeah, The Dark Knight Rises.
Okay.
It's, horrible tragedy. The fact that he connected to the whole Batman thing is sad, and
it was an excuse.
Yeah, it was an excuse, but it did start a really strange conversation around the whole concept of the Joker, which is part of why, they have guards at these showings. They had the whole thing where you can't wear costumes or masks or bring bags. There was that whole freak out. The fucking military and FBI issued a warning. Very strange. But I honestly, I don't think there was anything to be worried about, because
in the context of the actual movie,
I feel like this is a movie that someone would want to go see if they were that kind of person, instead of murdering everybody at it.
I'm wondering if there's even enough here to even, worry that somebody would be inspired by it.
Yeah, no, it's very fantastical. It's, and it does have this, really, if this dude had one person in his life who wasn't a fucking dick to him, sure, the guy's come around after his mom dies, and he, there's the one dude who straight up set him up and betrayed him and got him fired. So he doesn't care about that guy. But there's the one, there's the little dude who has always been nice to him, but it's not like he was there for him and supported him and talked him through his shit. Arthur Fleck doesn't have a single actual piece of support.
Are you fucking
kidding me? We have moved away from the car. You can still hear it faintly in the distance.
It's going to be a weird running joke through this video.
Yeah, right.
Oh no, the white car's offended.
Honk, honk. Fuck me. Okay. So there is a, there's a dog whistle, that is happening. It came from 4chan again, from, Poll and all that stuff. It's which is the political, branch of 4chan where a lot of white supremacist shit happens.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the recent memes and, flags they've thrown up is something called Clown World. This started happening back in February or March. And Clown World, it refers to, bless you.
Thank you.
It refers to something that basically Alex Jones followers are into.
Oh, God.
Clown World refers to the fact that basically if you think there's any overarching Illuminati-style power structure that sits behind the veil of news and government that we see, they refer to it as Clown World, and the clowns are running the world. This is kind of it takes the place of actual white supremacy so that people can signal to each other what they're about. But if you see the clown and then the globe emojis next to each other, that's Clown World. If you see if basically they're saying that the Jews are the clowns, or the gays are the clowns, or the basically it's that it's referring to that kind of shit.
Gotcha.
And it's one of the other things they use is honk honk, which HH Heil Hitler. That's not some weird conspiracy theory I'm coming up with. This is a real thing. Look it up if you really want to know. But that would also go further in proving my point.
How so?
Army of Clowns, Antifa.
Yeah, I see where you're going.
If you're talking about the theme of a clown, and that's a bit of a reach.
That one, I don't know.
It's a bit of a reach, but at the same time, if you're talking about right-wing bullshit, if you're talking about what clowns represent to them, this is not glorifying the Joker. I really don't think it's glorifying him.
It definitely wants you to sympathize.
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Because I felt like it was framed like it was.
I think there's a lot of pity in this movie, but
the movie always wants you to feel sorry for him. Even when
I don't know about that.
You don't think so?
I
felt like he did, but I could be like...
Well, there is the ongoing theme throughout the movie of there are bad things happening to this person. They're in a bad situation, definitely. feel sad about it or whatever, but it's always framed in the middle of this whole mindset of this is being used to do bad things. He's stalking this lady. He's got this gun and he doesn't know how to handle it.
No.
And he kills these 3 Wall Street guys, and he has no empathy for them. He refuses to think that it's a bad thing. And I don't know, man. I don't know. There's just so many fucking dog whistles in this movie.
I don't think he condones the actions of what he does, but
Keep talking.
Okay, but I think the why is heavily emphasized, not necessarily as justified, but like, oh, society did this to him, kind of a thing. The weird thing about that is the way that the character is written, or lack thereof, is portrayed as like he doesn't give a flying fuck about society or anything that any of the matter. It does not motivate any of his actions. It does not motivate why he kills people. It does not even motivate why he goes onto the show at the very end. The only time he ever gives a flying fuck about society is at the very end of the film. He has to deliver a full minute-long monologue about the ills of society. It's the only time he ever brings it up. Up until that point, he never cares, and he never really cares about the clown thing he accidentally kind of forms. The narrative cares.
He does like the fact that what he did started something, and you can see him liking that.
I'm not saying he doesn't like what he does, but he doesn't care about what they're doing, what they represent, what they're trying to do.
He just likes that it's having an effect.
Yeah, he just likes.
He likes that he matters on a certain level. Yeah, no, I can see that.
And that's kind of where I'm saying, like, even though it doesn't condone anything that happens, it can still be. You can still make the argument. It still can be appealing to that mindset of, oh, well, I did something that got me noticed, therefore look at me, I got noticed. Isn't that a great thing? Not necessarily the movie saying that, but that's what the character's thinking at the time, and that's a recurring thing that happens quite a lot through the movie. Even though when you really break it down, the character doesn't give 2 rats ass about society or anyone else. And again, the only thing that really seems to matter is when he has to make his big grand point at the end.
Well, it's all about himself. It's all about him. I don't know. The fact that he does see himself as abandoned by the system. He does see himself as downtrodden by the rich people who have all this stuff. Like, when there's a very big point made about the fact that there's a riot going on outside of a showing of Modern Times, which is a very interesting movie to pick, because I grew up on Chaplin, and Modern Times is one of my favorite fucking movies. And that movie is this beautiful, incredibly poignant and clever satire that is about this man stuck in a world that's becoming industrialized, and people are marching for their rights and getting arrested, and he gets thrown in jail unjustly. And when he gets out, he's just trying to find jobs to survive with his wife, and they're basically homeless, and they live in a fucking shed that's falling apart. And each day he goes and he tries to find a job, and somehow it fucks up, and he comes back, and the house is falling apart, but they're trying to find happiness in the middle of the Great fucking Depression. And it's such an incredible movie, and I can't. The fact that it's in this movie bothers me, while at the same time I kind of have to give it a little bit of a nod for the fact that the people who made this movie even knew enough about that movie to put it in here.
Which feels like it's already given way more credit than it deserves.
I feel that too, because clearly they don't. This is meant to be like an ode to Taxi Driver and shit, and clearly they kind of missed the fucking point. Yeah. I didn't see King of Comedy, so I can't speak to it. But
I know the plot. I haven't seen it either, but the plot's pretty similar from what I understand.
But the fact that at the end of, Taxi Driver, Bickle goes after fucking child sex traffickers.
Yeah.
This dude goes after a fucking late night talk show host.
Because he made fun of him.
There's a big fucking difference. You missed the fucking point. And
I think even despite all of that, like, you can argue about the symbolism, the intent, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Whatever your opinions on or any of that, the worst sin that this movie commits, outside of that one scene
outside of that one scene, okay.
Outside of that one scene, we'll get to that scene. Because this is the part where I think both you and I were like, done.
We're like, no.
Like that. I think I was probably like, no. Okay, that was probably like, okay, I'm not hating this movie necessarily, but I don't like it either. To like, fuck this movie. Fuck it all to hell.
The fucked up part was that it really would have been better if they just left out that entire last sequence.
Oh, I agree. I completely agree.
If they just ended with they could have made this movie without trying to tie it into Batman.
Oh, yeah.
They could have made this not about the Joker. They could have made this about a fucking crazy dude who, like, it really could have been a movie about a man with all the same themes who just loses his shit and goes on a talk show host and murders the host. And
that movie already exists. It's called King of Comedy.
That is King of Comedy?
That's King of Comedy.
Oh, well, this could have been... Well, then this could have been that, and then remove the Batman element, and it would have not felt as forced.
Yeah.
It felt like that element was forced into it, and it could have been... It could have been better if they just left that out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. It's like if you're gonna make it a standalone thing, make it a standalone thing.
Yeah.
Don't do this bullshit trying to tie it into a bigger thing. So that case, in case the fanboys demand it, you can put it in the Matt Reeves movies.
Yeah, right.
Which is exactly, it's exactly why they put that in there. But anyway, like besides that though, and that pissed me off to no end. I think everyone's like, "Fuck you, I'm done." The part that it's more the fact that through all this movie, all this pretentious, all this symbolism, all this deeper meaning, all this blah blah blah, I felt nothing through 3/4, like up to that very last part of there. I didn't feel
when you felt the rage.
Damn thing. I was so bored through so much of the movie. It's like to me,
I wasn't.
Yeah, like this goes down to personal taste because I know a lot of people were much more influenced than I am. So maybe that goes to like a personal taste thing. But for me personally, I was so bored because the writing is so inconsistent. It's so nothing. The character feels so nothing to me that I just did not care about anything that was happening at any point.
I was interested in seeing, like, I was interested in, like I said, about how the movie feels. Mm-hmm. I liked the feeling of this movie. I liked the fact, jeez, what is with cars today? I liked the feeling that the mix of the score and the cinematography and the lighting and Joaquin Phoenix gave me. I really enjoyed the tone of the movie, mm-hmm. and I wanted to see how this character progressed. I wanted to see how the performance evolved as the character, fell apart.
But that goes back to the writing.
Lot of that. And no, but that's the thing. It wasn't so much about the writing as the acting. I was interested in the acting
and that's
by
fair.
Joaquin Phoenix and the way that it was framed by these other textural elements. I really enjoyed that.
And that's fair. That is valid. And like I said, this is a very well-made movie, despite anything that goes against it.
I'm saying that's why I wasn't bored necessarily.
Okay, fair enough. And I respect that. I think for me personally, like, I really do take a lot of interest in writing. So if I can see through the bullshit in the very first frame, then I'm already like, well, I have no reason to care now.
Here's my thing. There are certain movies where not every department is on point. And I, as somebody who appreciates the different aspects that go into film, not saying that you're not, but as someone who appreciates all the different aspects that go into filmmaking, I can go into a movie, accept that part of it is going to be terrible, and at least try to appreciate what the other parts of it make.
And I do appreciate the other parts. I'm with you on that. Like, I agree all those other elements are good.
Maybe not appreciate, enjoy.
Okay.
I was able to enjoy it.
Well, I appreciate it, but I can't enjoy them on those factors when the weakest link breaks the chain.
There were parts where you could seriously tell, like, the only reason the scenes were held together was because the cast that they put together is pretty solid. There's not really a weak performance in the movie.
No, there isn't. Yeah.
They do the best they can with a script that is not great, to be generous.
Very.
And I have to respect that, and I have to appreciate what they did there. That being said,
do you at least see where I'm coming from?
No, absolutely see where you're coming from. I'm just saying that for me it was a bit different. But
I think for me, when like the very first shot of the movie is the Arthur Fletcher character doing like the thing that's in all the trailers where he's doing like the little smiling thing.
Yeah, pretty much all the stuff in the trailers is in the first few minutes.
Yeah, and
then
like
the shots of him later on.
And to me, that immediately took me out of it because like, okay, that's a scene that belongs like after you actually introduce the character and like what he's about, who he is, and then you can get to the Santa Clown bits. But the problem is like that's the establishing moment. And to me, it's like okay, you're already abusing your moment to introduce your character with dumb, like foreshadowing symbolism. And it's more like that. Just like I get it, he's a sad clown. Okay, fine. I know that's where you're going with this pretty much right away from the fucking name of the movie. I know this is where you're going. The fact that they felt that actually introduce a character as he is to me felt like okay. I can already tell it's going to be pretentious bullshit.
Well, it's
in a better written movie that scene could work.
Sure, but in terms of it being an establishing shot for the character, I don't necessarily agree with that.
Fair enough.
Because
it bothered me. I'm not saying it's universal, but it bothered me.
I get that, but I think a big flaw of that is also what they put into the trailer. I feel like the trailer just we're so used to seeing that, especially with that being at the end of the trailer.
Yeah.
Seeing it being the opening of it, I'm like, oh, okay, fine. And then you see him get, jumped and assaulted by the kids. Sure.
For reasons.
Yeah, because they're punk ass kids in a hyper urban area.
Sure. Whatever.
Yeah. So let's see. Okay, do we even need to talk about how stupid the fucking ending is? I mean, I'd really rather focus on thematic elements of the film because the movie itself is just what it is.
In the most briefest of way, they felt the need to put in the Thomas and Martha Wayne murder scene in there.
Yeah.
And it turns out it's because of the Joker riots.
Yeah, the riots that the Joker inspires and the hatred towards the rich that he inspires is what inspires some dude to track Thomas Wayne into a fucking alleyway and shoot him and his wife. And so, Antifa created Batman. Batman is anti-Antifa. Batman is the, anti-left-wing vigilante arm of justice because the law isn't I don't know, man.
Batman is with us now.
The reframing of the entire narrative, like the more I think about the anti-left perspective on this, the more
it makes sense.
The more despicable it makes this movie to me.
Yeah. No, I agree.
This movie, I know a lot of different people will get a lot of different things. I know there are a lot of people talking about how magnificent it is, and what they're talking about is Joaquin Phoenix's performance.
Absolutely, and that's what it is.
Yeah, like all this flavoring that I'm talking about, appreciating, that is what makes the movie worth anything at all. But underneath that, you have a script which, as from what I can tell, is specifically designed to be, based around the far right's perception of the kind of things that the left uses to justify its violence, so to speak. And that's why I think it leads to the riots. I think that's why it has the widespread destruction at the end and the anti-cop sentiment throughout the whole thing and the justification of killing the rich. I really think that this is a douchebag frat boy who's outgrown his britches, who thinks that he's not allowed to make comedy anymore because he can't think of anything funny enough that isn't offensive because he's a fucking child. That is the man who made this movie.
Yeah, and I think...
And you have to think about that. You have to keep that in mind when trying to figure out what this movie is trying to say. And I really think it's meant to be anti-left propaganda.
Honestly, yeah, and it does match up with the concerns I was having. The more interviews are coming out, the more I read like what Todd Phillips is saying, and I was getting to the point like, I don't think he's trying to dissuade the people that he should be dissuading. I think he's I don't want to say recruiting, but pandering to them. Like, he's pandering to the people that say, yeah, the far left are the real problems. Yeah. There are the people that are like, those are the real fucking problems. You nailed it, Todd. To like, oh yeah, PC culture and SJWs are ruining our modern day comedy. You got it, Phillips. I'm going to watch your movie now because fuck yeah, you're on our side.
I really think
there's a lot of pandering, and it's kind of fucking disturbing.
I really do think that if someone with that perspective goes into this movie, they will say like, yeah, see, that's how it goes with the left.
It reinforces a very specific
We
viewpoint.
need better mental health coverage because that's what happens.
Because the mentally ill are the ones that shoot people.
Yeah.
Also, unless we frame it like that, he's the only one that shoots people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that framing totally works and actually adds some kind of context and theme to this entire movie.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's just honestly, I know that we feel a lot about this movie, but I can't really think of much more I want to say regarding it. I think that really sums up what I
mean,
feel.
like, outside of, like, the technical stuff, I really think, I think you hit the nail on the head, and I agree with your take. And it does match my concerns. It matches what, like, even when I saw the first trailer, it was like, something's kind of bugging me about this. Like, I want to be excited for it, but something's kind of holding me back. And the more footage was released, the more people talked about it, the more, like, the actors and everyone involved kind of talked about it. It's like, there's something about this that just doesn't feel right. Now that we've actually spent a good chunk of time talking about it, and the more it's like, yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you absolutely nailed it.
So that's my hot take.
Yeah, this movie's hot garbage.
Like and subscribe.
On that note, we have an editorial out right now about toxic fan cultures, which seems very appropriate for this very topic, because I know I'm going to get a lot of shit in the comments for this.
How prescient.
So go watch that. It's better than what we just sat through. And for the rest of you who are going to bend over backwards defending this movie, because I've met a lot of you, unfortunately, and you just will not shut the fuck up about it.
Well, now they've seen it, so they can defend it harder.
Yeah, it's gotta be great.
That's fine.
Yay. I'm probably gonna delete a lot of you. I'm not gonna lie, I have no interest.
Let's not preemptively attack the fans.
Fair enough. It's more like it. Okay,
There are
put it
gonna
this
be
way.
some
If you're gonna start
conversations.
off with like throwing hateful slurs or hate comments or anything like that in the comments, I'm probably
Yeah.
gonna delete it.
If you're the kind of
I just have
person-
no patience for that.
If you're the kind of person who's upset about the fact that they can't and probably wouldn't be able to make the Hangover today, yeah, I don't think I don't think there's much that we can talk about.
No.
So,
But let's be clear on this. The whole not necessarily cancel culture, but the whole you can't make comedies because woke culture thing is complete bullshit, because we do have a movie about where the director plays Hitler coming out in a couple weeks.
Okay, number one rule, the only real rule about offensive jokes, the punchline cannot be
punch
the
down.
offense.
Yes, exactly.
If you're going to make offensive jokes, you better make damn sure they're funny.
and they actually have to like say something. Not necessarily say something, but they have to be challenging. They
It
have
can't
to
just be bullying.
Yeah, exactly. It can't just be punching down. It can't be saying like the people you're talking about can't be the punchline.
God, what was it? The Bo Burnham joke? Bo Burnham made one of the most incredibly just like it's like a satire of racial humor in general. He said something like, "Here's some racial humor for you. Black people are like this. Oh, white people are like this. Oh, blood in the streets forever." That's it. And I was like, wow. Oh, God.
See, that's a good edgy joke.
That's
because that, you know what, that challenges the fuck out of your audience.
That cuts to the quick, man.
Yeah.
But like that's
it's about nuance, about context. It's about what you're actually trying to say.
maybe if the only sense of humor you have is upsetting people, maybe you don't understand comedy, you fucking asshole. So yeah, that's that.
So
anyway,
fuck this movie. Fuck Todd Phillips.
I honestly don't think Joaquin Phoenix really understood what he was.
No, as far as I know, as far as I'm
I think he's a
concerned,
better person and a better actor than this.
I think Joaquin Phoenix just saw an intriguing role and thought, "Hey, this looks."
He saw a character to disappear into, and he really does. He does a great job.
I think it's what he saw in it. I don't think he directly believes in the propaganda.
Yeah.
I don't think he's involved in it. I think he would just, oh, cool, I get to be a different interpretation of Joker. That sounds cool. And I'm probably willing to bet that's all there was to it, and that's why he just seems extremely uncomfortable. All these interviews and all these different things.
They found us.
Shit.
Anyway, yeah,
but,
we've said
yeah.
our piece.
So,
Joaquin
yeah.
Phoenix is great. Everything about this movie is great except for the directing and the writing. And basically everything that's not Todd Phillips is
Pretty much, yep.
So which means the core of the movie is rotten. So that's it. Anyway.
So, yeah.
Done with that.
Bye. It's like the most defeated we've been since Exodus.